The cold silence of space was broken by the hum of a damaged human ship drifting through the purple clouds of an unknown nebula. Inside the small craft, Captain Ethan Cross struggled to keep control. Sparks jumped from broken panels, alarms flashed red, and the navigation screen showed only static. "Come on, stay with me," he muttered, pulling the lever that refused to move. The ship shook violently, then broke through the clouds and entered the upper atmosphere of a glowing blue planet. Through the front window, Ethan saw wide oceans and tall silver towers that shone in the sunlight. He had no idea what planet this was. It wasn't on any star map, he knew. But one thing was clear: if he didn't land soon, his ship would burn up in the descent. He gritted his teeth, switched to manual control, and guided the failing craft toward a wide plain near a city. Flames licked the sides of the ship as it hit the ground, skidding across the dirt before coming to a shuddering stop. For a moment, all he could hear was his own heartbeat. Smoke filled the cabin. He unbuckled, coughing, and forced the emergency hatch open. Fresh air, sweet and slightly metallic, filled his lungs. He stepped out and looked around. The sky was a strange shade of violet, with 3 moons visible even in daylight. Towering silver structures rose in the distance, surrounded by floating crystal-like platforms. Birds, or something like them, circled above. It was beautiful, and clearly not human. Ethan checked his wrist communicator. No signal, no translation data, no sign of human life. "Great," he said to himself. "First contact situation. No backup. No translator. Just me." As he examined his ship's condition, he noticed movement on the horizon. A group of figures approached in shimmering armor that reflected the sky like a mirror. They were tall, at least 2 meters each, with smooth skin that glowed faintly in different colors like soft neon veins under the surface. They carried long staffs that crackled with energy. Ethan raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Hello. I come in peace," he said, unsure if they would understand. His voice echoed oddly in the air. The lead guard tilted his head, then spoke in a musical tone. The words made no sense, but his tone wasn't hostile. Still, the guards surrounded him, forming a glowing circle. One of them tapped a small device on his wrist, projecting a holographic sphere that scanned Ethan from head to toe. When the scan finished, the guards exchanged shocked looks. One of them said something quickly to the others, then they gestured for him to follow. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right," he said. "Lead the way." They took him through fields of tall, silver grass that shone like glass. Strange crystal trees lined the path, their branches humming gently in the wind. Soon they reached the edge of a grand city. It was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Floating platforms connected by glowing bridges, and energy flowing through the streets like rivers of light. At the center stood a massive palace made of transparent material, shaped like a rising flame. The guards guided him through huge doors into a hall filled with alien nobles. Their eyes, golden, blue, and violet, turned toward him as whispers rippled through the crowd. Ethan could feel their gaze like heat. He straightened his back, trying to appear calm, though his heart was pounding. Then the crowd parted, and she appeared, the Queen of Veltara. She was tall, graceful, and radiant. Her silver and gold robes flowed like liquid light, and a crown of floating gems circled her head. Her eyes glowed softly, not cold or harsh, but filled with intelligence and power. As she stepped closer, the air itself seemed to hum with energy. Ethan had seen many strange worlds, but nothing compared to this moment. The Queen stopped before him, her eyes locked on his face. And then, to his shock, she knelt. The entire hall fell silent. Ethan froze. "Wait. What?" he whispered, staring down at her. All around, nobles and guards followed her example, bowing deeply until their foreheads touched the ground. The Queen spoke in her melodic language, her voice trembling slightly. One of the guards, now holding a translator crystal, placed it near Ethan's ear. The crystal glowed and slowly began to interpret. "Forgive us, traveler. her voice said in soft, accented English. We did not know the child of the forgotten flame had returned. Ethan blinked. What now? The queen lifted her head, eyes shimmering with something like tears. It has been 10,000 cycles since the stars sent one of your kind. We waited for the day the flame would return to guide us. And now? Here you stand. He took a step back, hand still raised slightly. There's been a mistake, he said quickly. I'm not anyone's savior. I'm just a pilot. My ship crashed here. But the queen slowly stood and placed a hand over her chest. The markings of the flame cannot lie, she said. Your blood carries the light of the ancients. The prophecy speaks true. Ethan frowned. Prophecy? The translator pulsed again, replaying her words. When the stars grow silent and darkness rises, a being from beyond the void will return, bearing the fire that cannot die. The child of the forgotten flame shall awaken the sleeping worlds. Ethan exhaled. Okay, he murmured. This is either the weirdest dream I've ever had, or I've just become part of a galactic misunderstanding. The queen extended her hand toward him. You are safe here, traveler. Come. The people must see you. The guards opened the grand doors and sunlight poured into the hall. A huge crowd filled the palace courtyard, thousands of glowing figures looking up at him in awe. When the queen raised her hand, the entire crowd knelt again. The sound of armor and robes hitting the ground echoed like thunder. Ethan's throat went dry. He had faced pirates, storms, and alien predators before, but nothing like this. He whispered under his breath, Why are they kneeling? What do they think I am? The queen turned to him, smiling softly. You do not understand now, she said gently, but soon you will remember who you are. Her words made no sense, yet there was a strange warmth in her tone, a belief so deep that Ethan almost felt guilty denying it. Later, in a grand chamber filled with glowing crystals, attendants offered him water and strange food. The queen joined him, standing by the window overlooking the shining city. You carry the spark, she said quietly. Our seers saw it the moment you arrived. It burns within your heart. Ethan laughed weakly. That's probably just adrenaline. I'm still trying to figure out where I am. The queen looked at him for a long moment, then said softly, You are on Veltara, the last world of the Flame's legacy, and now that you have come, our fate will change. Ethan leaned against the glass, watching the sky shimmer with faint energy lines. He didn't know what to say. He didn't even know how to go home. As night fell, stars began to appear, not still and distant, but moving like rivers of light. The queen's voice echoed faintly behind him. Rest, traveler. Tomorrow, your destiny will begin. But Ethan couldn't rest. He stared out at the alien stars and whispered to himself, Destiny, huh? I just hope I survive tomorrow. Far above, in the dark part of the sky, a red glow appeared, a fleet of ships, unknown to Veltara, slowly approaching. The people didn't see it yet. But Ethan would soon learn that his arrival wasn't just a coincidence. It was the spark that would decide the fate of two worlds. Morning light poured through the high glass walls of the royal chamber. The twin suns of Veltara rose slowly, painting the city in gold and silver. The floating towers shimmered, and streams of bright energy flowed between them like rivers of light. From his balcony, Ethan cross-stared at the strange beauty, still unable to believe that only yesterday he was an ordinary human pilot. And now, an entire world thought he was some kind of savior. He rubbed his eyes. This has to be a mistake, he whispered. Behind him, a soft, musical voice replied, Mistake or not, Captain Cross, your arrival has already changed everything. It was Queen Sarathia. She entered the room wearing silver robes that glowed faintly in the morning light. Her golden eyes were calm but full of curiosity. Ethan turned and bowed slightly, still unsure what kind of respect he was supposed to show an alien monarch. Your Majesty, he said carefully. About last night, I still think there's some confusion. I'm not the person your people think I am. The Queen smiled faintly. Every chosen one says that at first, she said. Come with me. There is something you must see. She led him through a long hallway lined with floating lights. The air was cool and filled with a faint humming sound, like the planet itself was alive. Guards bowed as they passed, their armor reflecting blue light. Ethan felt uncomfortable. Wherever he went, people stared at him with awe and whispered softly. It was like walking through a dream where he was the only one who didn't know the rules. They entered a great hall deep beneath the palace, a circular room surrounded by glowing crystal pillars. In the center floated a large stone tablet, covered in ancient writing. Strange holographic symbols danced above it like fireflies. This is the Hall of Memory, the Queen said softly. It holds the oldest record of our history, and the prophecy that foretold your coming. Ethan walked closer, his reflection appearing on the smooth floor. You really think this prophecy is about me? He asked. Queen Serathia touched the air and the tablet came alive. A hologram projected from it, showing an image of a starship old and scarred, falling through the skies of Veltara, much like Ethan's arrival. The figure that stepped out of it looked human, holding a glowing crystal in his hand. Around him stood aliens bowing in reverence. The Queen spoke softly. 10,000 cycles ago, our ancestors met a being from the stars. He was human, like you. He came during a time of great war and taught us how to control the energy of our world, the light of the flame. When he left, he promised that one day when Veltara was in danger again, a child of his bloodline would return. Ethan blinked. So you think I'm his descendant? The markings in your blood say so, she said. When our scanners read your DNA, they found the same genetic pattern, the pattern of the flame. Ethan shook his head slowly. I don't even know who my ancestors were beyond 200 years. Humanity has been scattered across so many colonies. This could just be coincidence. The Queen studied him quietly. Perhaps, but coincidences are often how fate speaks. Ethan sighed and crossed his arms. Even if this prophecy is true, I don't have any special powers. I can't control light or summon fire or whatever it is you think I can do. You have already done something greater, she said, her eyes glowing faintly. You survived. You crossed the void alone and landed on our world when no one thought it possible. That courage itself is power. He wanted to argue, but her words silenced him. There was something in her tone, not blind faith, but hope. Deep, desperate hope. She walked closer to the floating tablet and pointed at a symbol shaped like a flame. The prophecy also says the child will awaken the heart of Veltara, a great crystal hidden beneath our planet's core. It is said that when the flame touches it again, it will shine brighter than 1,000 suns and protect our world from darkness. Ethan frowned. And you think that's literal? Serathia nodded slowly. The heart is real, but we have lost the key to awaken it. For generations, our scientists have failed to understand its language. Perhaps with your help. Ethan raised a hand. I'm an engineer, not a prophet. I fix ships, not holy crystals. That made the Queen laugh softly, the first time he'd seen her smile without the weight of royalty. Then perhaps that is exactly why you were chosen, she said. Because you see things not as miracles, but as problems to solve. Before Ethan could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the hall. A tall figure in dark armor entered. His glowing red markings were different from the others, sharp and harsh. My queen, the warrior said, bowing slightly. Forgive my interruption, but the council demands your presence. They question your trust in the outsider. Ethan could tell by the man's tone that outsider meant him. The Queen's expression cooled. Tell the council I will speak with them shortly, she said. The warrior bowed again and left, but not before giving Ethan a long, suspicious glare. When he was gone, Ethan asked quietly, He doesn't like me, does he? The Queen sighed. That was General Kale, commander of our armies. He believes you are a danger to our unity. Some on the council agree with him. Well, Ethan said, scratching the back of his neck, I can't really blame them. If I were in their place, I'd think I was crazy too. The Queen smiled again, though this time it was sad. Perhaps, but sometimes belief is all a people have left. They returned to the upper palace. As they walked through the city, Ethan noticed how different the people behaved now. Children pointed at him in wonder. Traders offered him gifts. Artists carved his face into glowing crystal murals. It made him uneasy. He didn't want to be worshipped. He just wanted to understand. That evening, Sarathia hosted a small council meeting. Ethan sat quietly at the edge of the glowing table while several alien nobles argued in their melodic tongue. The translator crystal whispered the meaning in his ear. "This human cannot be trusted," said one. "He is the prophecy made flesh," said another. "He will bring ruin," shouted a third. Ethan finally stood up. "I don't want to bring ruin or rule anyone," he said firmly. "I just want to help fix what's broken, if you'll let me." His voice echoed in the chamber. For a moment, everyone was silent. The queen looked at him with pride. "You speak like the one who came before," she said softly. After the meeting, she led him to a balcony where the night sky glittered like liquid glass. "You handled them well," she said. "They fear change, but you spoke from the heart," Ethan sighed. "I don't know about destiny, but I do know one thing. If you're in trouble, maybe I can help in my own way. I've studied alien tech before. If I can see this heart of Veltara, maybe I can understand how it works." The queen's eyes brightened with hope. "Then tomorrow we will go to the crystal core where the heart sleeps." As she turned to leave, Ethan looked up at the stars again. One of them flashed, and not like a star but like a signal. He narrowed his eyes. It wasn't natural light. It was the reflection of engines, dozens of them. A chill ran down his spine. He whispered, "That's not good." Far above the atmosphere, a dark fleet moved in silence. The Zorkan Dominion had detected the energy surge from Ethan's arrival. To them, Veltara's light was not sacred. It was fuel, and they were coming to take it. The next morning came with a strange stillness. The twin suns rose over the horizon, but the light seemed dimmer. A thin layer of dark clouds drifted above the shining city of Veltara, and a faint hum trembled in the air. A sound too low for the aliens to notice, but Ethan's trained ears caught it. It was the sound of engines, from space. He stood on the palace balcony, gazing up at the sky. His heart beat faster. The distant flashes he had seen last night were real. Something was coming. Behind him, the queen's voice broke the silence. "You can sense it, can't you?" she asked. She stood beside him, her silver robe flowing gently in the morning wind. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes, it's faint, but there's movement above your atmosphere. I've seen enough warships to know that sound. Someone's heading this way." The queen's golden eyes darkened. "The Zorkan Dominion," she said quietly. "They have been watching us for centuries. We feared this day would come." Ethan turned to face her. "You mean they want your planet?" "They want our light," she answered. "The heart of Veltara is more than a symbol. It is a power source older than our sun. The Dominion believes it can give them eternal strength. They have destroyed many worlds for less." Ethan took a deep breath. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but the instinct of survival burned inside him. "Then we need to prepare. You can't fight an interstellar invasion with ceremony and belief alone." The queen smiled faintly. "That is why you are here, Captain Cross. The prophecy said the child of flame would bring the fire of wisdom. Teach us what must be done." Ethan almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm just one man," he said. "But maybe I can help you make a plan." The call to prepare within hours. The palace council was gathered in the war chamber. A huge circular room surrounded by floating screens showing the skies above the planet. Dozens of alien officers and advisors filled the hall. Some looked fearful, others defiant. In the center, Ethan stood beside Queen Sarathia, studying the holographic map of space. The image showed dark shapes moving toward Veltara. Huge, spiked ships that emitted waves of shadow-like energy. Ethan pointed. "That's a standard invasion formation. The lead ships will block your defense network, while smaller strike vessels target your energy sources. You'll lose power before they even land troops." The alien generals looked confused, but Sarathia translated his words. A low murmur filled the room. General Kale, the same tall red-marked soldier from before, crossed his arms. "You speak as if you have fought them before," he said coldly. "I've fought worse," Ethan replied. "But if you don't start now, your people won't have a chance." Kale's eyes glowed brighter. "And what do you suggest, outsider?" "We are not human. Our ways are not yours." Ethan stepped closer to the table. "Then maybe that's your problem. You fight by patterns and logic. Humans fight by instinct. Sometimes chaos wins when order fails." The room went silent. Even the queen looked at him with surprise. Then slowly she nodded. Explain. Ethan began outlining a plan. He used their floating screens to draw quick sketches, showing how to use the city's light canals as energy traps, how to turn floating platforms into defensive turrets, and how to redirect their crystal beams as signal jammers. His ideas were simple but effective. At first, the generals resisted. But as he explained more, they started to see the logic. He was thinking differently, not as a Velteron strategist, but as a survivor who had faced impossible odds. By the end of the meeting, even Kyle stayed silent. The Queen looked around the room. "Then it is decided," she said. "We will trust the humans' plan. May the flame guide us." A growing bond later that evening, Ethan walked through the palace gardens, his mind full of maps and numbers. The garden was peaceful. Glowing plants, streams of silver water, and tall blue flowers that opened only at night. For a moment, he forgot the danger above. Queen Sarathia joined him quietly. "You gave them something they have not felt in a long time," she said. "Hope," Ethan smiled faintly. "Hope is good, but it won't stop plasma fire." She looked at him curiously. "You are strange, Captain Cross. You do not believe in destiny, yet you fight for others as if it is your duty." He shrugged. "That's what humans do. We may argue, fail, or fall, but we don't stop trying. Maybe that's what your prophecy really meant." The Queen's expression softened. Perhaps the flame was never about power, but about heart. They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars. Then Ethan spoke again, his tone serious. "If those ships land, I'll need to be out there. On the front lines." Her eyes widened slightly. "You would risk your life for us." Ethan met her gaze. "I'd risk it for anyone who believes in something worth saving." She nodded slowly, and for the first time, she didn't see him as an outsider, but as an ally. Sabotage in the shadows that night. As the city prepared for war, a sudden explosion shook the Western District. Alarms rang through the capital. Ethan and the Queen rushed to the control room, where smoke and chaos filled the screens. A large weapons vault, one of the newly built defense towers, had exploded, killing dozens of workers. Engineers ran through the corridors shouting reports. "It wasn't an accident," one of them cried. "Someone overloaded the energy cells." Ethan felt a chill. "Sabotage," he said. Kale arrived moments later, his face grim. "The timing is too perfect," he said. Then his sharp eyes turned toward Ethan. "Only someone who knew our new plans could have done this." The room fell silent. Ethan stared at him in disbelief. "You think I did this?" "You arrived, and suddenly everything changes. Now our defenses fall apart," Kale said coldly. "Perhaps the Dominion sent you to weaken us enough." The Queen's voice cut through the tension. Her golden eyes burned with command. "Captain Cross has done nothing but help us. I will not hear such words without proof." Kyle lowered his head reluctantly, but his glare remained. "Very well, my Queen, but if another attack happens, I will act." He turned and left the room. Ethan sighed and rubbed his temples. "Great, now I'm the enemy again." Sarathia placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do not worry about him. Kale's heart is loyal, but his trust is slow to grow." Ethan nodded, but deep inside unease gnawed at him. If there was a traitor inside the city, they were already one step ahead. The sky burns hours later. The warning lights turned red across the city. The Dominion fleet had entered orbit. Massive ships, black as stone, began firing energy beams into Veltara's upper atmosphere. The shockwaves shook the towers and bright flashes lit up the sky. Ethan ran to the command deck. The Queen was already there, her calm voice directing her soldiers. "Activate the light barriers. Prepare the aerial fleet." The sound of engines roared as alien fighters launched into the air, forming shining trails of blue light. Ethan watched the battle unfold. His plan was working, but barely. The Dominion ships were powerful, and each strike sent ripples of fire through the sky. "We can't outlast them," Ethan said. "You need to lure them lower. If they get close enough to the atmosphere, we can use your crystal towers to overload their systems." The Queen turned to her officers. "Do as he says." Moments later, massive beams of pure energy shot upward from the ground, the city's towers channeling the light of the flame. The Dominion ships tried to pull back, but it was too late. The air glowed with white light, and 2 enemy cruisers exploded in midair. Cheers filled the control room, but then the screens flickered. A deep voice crackled through the speakers, cold, mechanical, and cruel. "Veltara will burn. Your light belongs to us." Ethan froze. The signal came from inside the palace. He turned to the Queen. There's a transmitter here. Someone's guiding them straight to the heart. Her face paled. Then the traitor is already among us. The palace trembled as another blast struck the city. Alarms echoed through the corridors, and the sky outside burned with bright flashes. The Zorkan Dominion had broken through the outer defenses. Their dark ships descended like giant shadows, firing beams of red energy that tore through the floating towers of Veltara. Inside the command hall, Ethan Cross worked frantically at the main console. They're targeting the lower districts, he shouted. If they reach the energy canals, the whole city will collapse. Queen Sarathia stood beside him, her calm voice steady despite the chaos. Our soldiers fight bravely, but the enemy's weapons are stronger. We cannot hold them for long. Ethan's hands flew over the glowing controls. Then we make them fight on our terms, he said. Redirect power from the upper towers to the ground shields. Bring the enemy closer. I have an idea. Sarathia looked at him. You want to let them in? Ethan nodded. It's the only way. If they reach the inner walls, I can trap them using the city's energy grid. But I need full control of the light network. The Queen hesitated for only a moment, then gave a sharp command. Do it. The alien officers obeyed, their glowing hands moving over crystal panels. The city's golden lights dimmed for a moment, then surged brighter as power shifted below. Outside, the enemy ships descended lower, unaware of the trap forming around them. Ethan exhaled. All right, he said quietly. Let's give them a welcome. The invasion begins. The first Zorkan dropships hit the ground like meteors, releasing troops of tall, armored figures. Their armor was black and sharp-edged, and their faces hidden behind silver masks. They moved with machine-like precision, spreading through the streets. From the palace balcony, Ethan watched as the Veltaran soldiers met them head-on. Blue and red beams filled the air. The city's canals glowed with light as energy surged through the crystal bridges. The sound of battle echoed like thunder. Ethan turned to Sarathia. Stay here and keep the energy flow stable. If the grid overloads, the whole plan fails. And you? She asked. He grabbed his old plasma rifle, a relic from his ship, and slung it across his shoulder. I'll make sure they stay inside the trap. Without waiting for her reply, he sprinted out of the command hall and down the marble steps. Guards shouted after him, but he didn't stop. He moved through corridors filled with smoke and flashing lights until he reached the outer plaza. The battle was fierce. Alien soldiers fought desperately against the invaders. Ethan jumped behind a broken pillar, aimed his rifle and fired. The blue bolt hit a Zorkan trooper, knocking it backward. He fired again and again, covering the Veltaran fighters as they regrouped. One of the alien officers shouted in their melodic language, and Ethan's translator, Crystal, whispered, "The flame fights among us." For a moment, the soldiers' fear turned into courage. They charged forward with renewed strength. Ethan ducked behind cover, breathing hard. Guess that's one way to inspire an army, he muttered. The trap of light high above, Queen Sarathia watched the battle unfold on the palace screen. Her hands glowed as she directed the city's power. Activate the light grid, she commanded. All across Veltara, the glowing canals pulsed brighter. Beams of golden light rose into the air, forming a massive network of energy lines that surrounded the city like a cage. The Zorkan troops inside suddenly found their weapons flickering, their armor sparking. Down in the streets, Ethan saw it happen. It's working, he shouted. Their power's dropping. He ran to the nearest control tower and accessed the panel. Using what he'd learned from the Queen's engineers, he linked his risk communicator to the system. Let's finish this. He reprogrammed the light grid to overload. If the plan worked, it would send a wave of energy through the ground, disabling every Zorkan machine inside the city. But it would also drain the entire capital's power. A one-time move, Sarathia, he said through the communicator. I'm triggering it. When the signal flashes, shut down the palace core for 10 seconds. No longer. Understood, her voice replied, calm but heavy. Ethan pressed the final command. The streets filled with light. A huge surge of golden energy erupted from the ground, sweeping through the city like a storm. The Zorkan soldiers froze as their armor short-circuited. Their weapons sparked and went dark. One by one they fell, stunned but alive. Ethan shielded his eyes from the brightness. The air buzzed with power. The crystal towers glowed like suns, and then silence. He opened his eyes slowly. The enemy forces lay motionless. The Veltaran soldiers stood in shock, their weapons lowered. The battle was over. A soft voice came through his communicator. "It worked," the Queen said. "You did it," Ethan smiled faintly. "We did it." But before he could relax, the ground shook again, harder this time. The energy grid flickered and a massive shadow covered the city. Ethan looked up and froze. A Zorkan command ship, 10 times larger than the others, was descending. Its black hull blocked out the suns. It fired a single red beam that tore through the palace shield and hit the central tower. "Sarathia!" Ethan shouted. The Queen's stand smoke filled the air as Ethan raced back toward the palace. Explosions echoed through the halls. Guards lay injured and the walls glowed red from heat. He pushed through debris, calling the Queen's name. He found her near the throne room, helping a wounded child stand. Her robes were torn, but her eyes were still bright. "You should have stayed outside," she said as he approached. "I don't leave friends behind," he replied. She smiled faintly. "Then we will face them together." Above them, the ceiling cracked. The giant Zorkan ship hovered overhead, preparing to fire again. Ethan looked up at the burning sky and knew they had only one chance. "Your light network is gone," he said quickly. "But your heart isn't." The Queen's eyes widened. "You mean the heart of Veltara?" "It has been dormant for ages. No one knows how to awaken it." "Maybe no one else could," Ethan said, remembering the strange crystal she had once given him, the one that glowed when he touched it. He pulled it from his pocket. "But this thing reacts to me. Maybe that's the key." Sarathia looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Then go. The chamber lies beneath the palace. I will hold them off. You can't fight that ship alone." Her golden eyes softened. "You gave us courage, Captain Cross. Let me return it." Before he could stop her, she turned and lifted her staff. Light burst from her body, forming a protective barrier around the palace. Ethan hesitated only for a second, then ran toward the lower levels. The heart of Veltara. The deeper he went, the more the air vibrated. Finally, he reached a vast circular chamber glowing with blue light. In the center stood a giant crystal, floating above a pool of liquid energy. The heart of Veltara. It pulsed faintly as if asleep. Ethan approached slowly. "All right, let's hope your prophecy was right," he muttered. He held up the smaller crystal and it began to glow brighter. The air around him shimmered. Sparks of light leapt between the two crystals and a deep hum filled the chamber. Suddenly, images flashed in his mind, memories that weren't his. He saw an ancient human standing with the first queen of Veltara, teaching her people about light, peace, and hope. The man smiled and said, "When darkness returns, our flame will return too." Ethan gasped as the vision faded. The large crystal blazed with light and energy poured into the room. The ground trembled. The power raced through the palace walls, through the city, and up into the sky. Above, the Queen looked up as beams of golden light shot through the clouds. The massive Zorkan ship paused, its red weapons dimming under the wave of light. The sky became white for a moment, brighter than a sun. Then silence. The Zorkan fleet was gone, vanished into the void. The aftermath hours later, the fires were out. The city was quiet again. The Veltaran people stood among the ruins, staring at the glowing sky that now shimmered peacefully. Ethan walked through the courtyard, exhausted but alive. His body ached, but he was smiling faintly. The Queen approached him, her silver robe repaired, her crown glowing softly. "You awakened the heart," she said. "You saved us." Ethan shook his head. "No, we saved us. I just lit the spark." Sarathia knelt once more as she had the day they met. But this time, Ethan understood. It wasn't worship, it was respect. "You have given us more than victory," she said softly. "You reminded us what courage means." Ethan looked up at the stars. "And maybe you reminded me what being human means." The city of Veltara had begun to recover. The sky was clear again, the twin suns shining warmly on the silver towers and floating bridges. Crystal towers repaired themselves with the help of Veltaran engineers, and citizens cleaned the streets with careful, deliberate movements. Though the scars of battle remained, there was hope, and a quiet sense of awe for the human who had arrived from the stars. Captain Ethan Cross walked slowly through the main plaza. People stepped aside, bowing slightly, their golden eyes reflecting the faint light of the restored heart of Veltara. He had never felt such attention in his life. Everywhere he went, whispers followed him, the flame, the savior. The human Ethan frowned, shaking his head. "I just did what I had to do," he murmured. He hadn't fought for glory, only for survival. and for the lives of those who believed in him. Still, the honor of it pressed on him, heavy but strangely comforting. From the palace steps, Queen Sarathia watched him. Her robes flowed like silver water in the gentle wind. She had not knelt since the battle ended, but her gaze was fixed on him, full of pride and respect. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. For the first time he understood what the bow had meant. Not submission to prophecy, but acknowledgement of courage. He walked toward the palace gardens where Sarathia waited. The gardens were alive again, flowers opening to the sunlight, streams of silver water reflecting the crystal towers. Children played, laughing in alien musical tones, and soldiers walked calmly among the citizens. "You've given us more than we could ever imagine," the queen said, stepping closer. "The Dominion will not return soon, but even if they do, Veltara is strong. Stronger than we thought." Ethan nodded. "I'm glad I could help. But it wasn't just me. Your people fought bravely, and your energy network, well, it helped a lot." Sarathia smiled, her eyes bright. "You gave them confidence. Confidence is something even the strongest weapons cannot give." They walked silently for a while, the only sound the hum of the restored heart beneath the palace. Ethan felt a mix of relief and sadness. He had saved a world, but now he faced a harder decision: leaving it. Preparing to leave in the palace hangar, Ethan worked quietly on his ship. Veltaran engineers had helped him repair the damage from his crash, their glowing tools floating in the air, repairing circuits and hull plates with precision he had never imagined. General Kale approached, his red markings muted in the bright morning light. Ethan braced himself for confrontation, but instead Kale nodded once. "You fought well," Kale said simply. "Your strategies saved us. Your instincts, your courage. It is human. We will remember it." Ethan allowed a faint smile. "Thanks. And don't worry, I won't come back with fireworks next time." Kale's rare smile was brief but genuine. "Do not underestimate humans. We have learned that lesson today." As the engineers finished, Ethan secured his belongings and checked his navigation system. The stars above were calm, but his mind wandered. For the first time, he understood that humanity's strength was not just in technology or weapons, but in creativity, courage, and the will to survive. The farewell ceremony, Queen Sarathia led him to the plaza for a proper farewell. Citizens gathered, their glowing forms forming a circle around him. The heart of Veltara pulsed in the center of the city, brighter than ever, casting golden light across the plaza. The queen knelt before him once more. But Ethan didn't feel awe or fear this time. He felt respect and connection. "You came to us not because you were chosen, but because you acted without hesitation when it mattered most," she said softly. "The flame spoke of your arrival, but it was your heart that fulfilled it." Ethan bent slightly, lowering his gaze. I didn't do it for glory. I just did what I could." Sarathia reached out, placing the small glowing crystal in his hands, the one that had helped him awaken the heart. "Take this," she said. "Let it remind you of Veltara, and of what your kind truly can do. You are the spark that lit our flame, human, and that spark will never die." Ethan nodded, holding the crystal close. "I'll never forget this world. Or you." Lessons learned. As he boarded his repaired ship, Ethan looked down one last time at the city. The citizens waved, and even General Kale gave a small salute. He realized that Veltara had changed him, just as he had changed it. It wasn't about prophecy or destiny. It was about human resilience, the ability to act when the odds are impossible, to adapt and to inspire others to rise with you. His hands gripped the controls, the familiar hum of the engines filling the cabin. He glanced at the small crystal glowing softly on the dashboard. Its light reflected in his eyes, reminding him of the bond he had formed with the alien world. A thought struck him, simple but profound. Maybe that's what humans are meant to be, sparks in the dark, capable of lighting entire worlds. Rising through the stars, the ship lifted from the palace courtyard, engines roaring as it pierced the thin atmosphere. From above, Veltara looked peaceful and radiant. The damage from the battle was visible, but so was the spirit of its people. The heart continued to glow, casting golden rays far into the sky. Ethan smiled faintly, thinking of the queen kneeling before him. It had meant so many things, and only now did he understand it was never worship, only recognition. Recognition that even a single human, armed with courage and intelligence, could make a difference across the stars. He plotted a course back to human space, but the thought of home seemed less important now. The universe was wide, and humanity was just beginning to show its light among the stars. He whispered softly to himself, "One day humans will be more than explorers. We'll be legends, even to worlds we haven't seen yet." The stars stretched endlessly before him, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt truly free. He didn't know what awaited him out there. More battles, new worlds, strange civilizations, but he knew one thing. Humanity's flame burned bright, and he was part of it. A lasting legacy. Days later, Velterra returned to its normal rhythm. The citizens rebuilt their homes, repaired their towers, and resumed their daily lives. Stories spread of the human who had arrived from the stars, the one who awakened the heart, and who stood fearless against impossible odds. Even General Kale, once skeptical, told the young soldiers in the academy, "Remember the human who came when we needed hope. Let his courage guide you." The Queen often visited the heart of Velterra, touching the crystal Ethan had left behind. She smiled, knowing the flame of hope and courage would never fade, because it had been awakened not by prophecy alone, but by a human spirit. And far above the planet, somewhere among the stars, a ship sailed through the void. Its pilot gazed at distant worlds, dreaming of new adventures, knowing that the light of humanity, bright, unpredictable, and fearless, would reach them all.